Google's new shopping tab has a new AI tool that makes your fashion idea and that takes your fashion idea and suggests similar clothing options. According to TechCrunch, this new feature dubbed Vision Match is now available in the search experience on mobile for US users. It lets shoppers describe a garment they're imagining, and then the AI suggests ideas based on the description, along with the best available matches that users can purchase. To try this feature, users simply type an idea into the search bar and scroll to the "can't find it, create it" prompt, or go to the left panel in the shopping tab and select Create and Shop. Chris Creyts, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say that retailers and brands with whom you work are prioritizing investments in Gen AI search?
Yeah, I think it's pretty high. I maybe call it like a 7. It's definitely
Wow.
a topic that's getting a lot of talk. I think
Really?
it is, yeah, and I think it's not that people are dumping investment into it yet, but I think everyone's really curious. Like from a merchandising perspective, you have this fear that you carry the product a customer is looking for and they can't find it, and somewhere in that discovery journey it breaks, and I think that is a very real fear that people have. Now, does like these AI tools actually solve that? E.g., you can upload a picture of a garment into someone's search on like a victoriassecret.com, and it'll suggest all the other ones that we have that are like that. Does it really drive value? I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think there is a deep desire to make sure that you're serving intuitive search results. I think no one wants to be the last one or the last one to build a more intuitive discovery process. I think there's some other cool elements that are coming out of these, like personalized searching. If you can use Gen AI to better understand someone's purchasing and browsing history, then you know what to present to them. So it's not only returning more intuitive search results based on what everyone's looking for, but I can present you with the things that I think you're most likely to buy based on what you've bought from me in the past. I think there's definitely some upside there. So I'd say there's a lot of interest. I know people who are actively doing, there's a lot of partnerships with Google Cloud in the space. So I think there's a lot of traction here and a lot of interest in the area. Now, is it translating to immense value yet? I'm not sure. I haven't heard anyone really toting massive EBITDA gains from AI search yet, but I think there's a lot of interest.
So, Chris, would you say that your recommendation for retailers is what then? Is it to start to look at investing in this on their own brand site, to start to look at this from how they show up in these searches, or like how are you navigating this, your recommendations for them?
Yeah, I would think back to what your consumer data is telling you and what your shopping data from your website is telling you as to whether these are investments that make sense for you. If you're seeing low click-through rates, if you're seeing, as you walk that funnel from your website in terms of how people interact with your site, if you're seeing searches that don't result in the right click-throughs that you want, then maybe this is something that is a true gap for your business where you prioritize those investments.
And Dave, is this consistent with what you're seeing with clients that you've worked with as well?
Yeah. Especially within fashion and apparel, it's super important as it relates to personalization and customization. Now, with the amount of data that's out there and the amount of options that consumers have, they want something that's tailored specifically to him and her. And this is a potentially more seamless way to drive customization on things that are unknown. And I think right now we live in a world where more is more. And so having this AI tool, if done correctly, to Chris's point, could have huge impact, maybe not as much to conversion, but at least to loyalty and traffic. And I think that's where they should start first. Is this a traffic driving piece? And then how does that relate to actual conversion of sale?
Right. Especially as search behaviors are shifting, and there's a whole track that's going to be dedicated to that at Shop Talk next week, Chris Walton, that you and I are both going to be having, I'm sure, a lot of conversations with retailers about. Chris, what do you think? Everybody knows how I feel about Google search right now, so I don't need to spend too much time on this, but I'd love to get your insights because I've made you include yet another Google headline in our Fast Five.
Yeah, I made the joke that this is your Google orgasm of the week, right? Like that.
Yep.
This is like
Every month, gotta hit at
every
least one.
month. Yes, I know. But no, I mean, first of all, I'd say, like, stepping back, it's quite comforting to hear David and Chris say that retailers are actively thinking about
I
think
agree.
that's good. I mean, it shows me they've learned from the mistakes of the past where they discounted e-commerce for so long. So that's very comforting. The one place where I probably disagree with, I think, Chris, who said this, is I do think there's an order of operations here of the right way to approach this from a retail executive perspective. Because, like I think was outlined, I think there's two imperatives that the retailers are facing. One, they have to decide how they want to show up on the search engines themselves. And two, they have to decide what it means for their own e-commerce experiences.
Right.
And I'm inclined to disproportionately invest in the former, because that's all really about having great data quality at the end of the day, which is a good thing to have regardless. Whereas the latter, to see the benefit, it's going to still require a step change in how people shop, which is likely going to come by way of a culturing to the search engines themselves. So I think that's kind of a next order of operations concern. You got to get your data quality right first. And the proof point will be, how do you show up on those search engines? That's the approach I would be taking if I was in the executive chair.
Yeah. And Chris, you got me thinking of something too. Like, as we talked about, as searching behaviors are changing, and even people are going to a brand's own website even less, so traffic like this is going to be really important, and making sure that you're investing in showing up on the search engines, on Google, or on any of the Gen AI search platforms too, where people are going to be starting their searching and discovering process. But I also wonder if, like, from Google's perspective, does this allow them another data set to sell to brands in the long run, of like, these are the things that people are creating, like, specifically for this tool, like, here's what's missing in the category. Here are the search terms that people are entering in when they come to this Google Create and Find tool. And then they can in turn take that back to the brands and be like, as you're developing your R&D, as you're trying to figure out like what the next trend is, here's another collection of data that we can give you exact pinpointed information on. Here's what people are dreaming up that doesn't exist out there in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. It's another data point for Google. It's another data point to serve up advertising too in the Google platform as well, which I'm sure they're thinking about, long term, without a doubt. So yeah, I think that's exactly right, Ann. The other point I'd make too is, like, you brought it up, like, the traffic to websites is going to be less and less. Yep. So, you've got to convert it, but at the end of the day, you need to show up where the traffic is going to go. And so that's the point I would make here, that people need to keep top of mind.